Mom spends thousands of my money on my entitled sister's wedding, but I froze the account and spoiled it. I'm going through a weird problem in life. Actually, it's not a problem, I'm in a dilemma. My mom and sister have been using me for years and now they have crossed all limits of exploitation. I want to cut them off, but that would mean pushing them into poverty, which seems harsh to me, but I'm also done giving in to their demands. I'm 38F, married with 2 kids, living in Ohio for the last 6 years after my wedding. I'm originally from Houston. My childhood was problematic due to my parents' divorce and my dad leaving us, accusing mom of infidelity. It remains disputed to date if it was just an accusation or if it was true because mom never remarried. I was 10 and my sister was 5 when my parents got separated. They say that my father suspected that my sister was not his, which led to a divorce. As an alimony, he let mom keep the house in which we lived and he moved out. My father paid for my education but not for my sister's. He didn't give child support money for her and I don't know why mom never contested for it. I guess that's the reason why everyone believed in dad's accusation of my sister not being his daughter. Dad was not in touch with us for most part of my childhood. He occasionally showed up at my school to pay the school fee and brought some gifts for me, but when I went to high school, I contacted him and since then he has always been a part of my life. He even attended my wedding despite a lot of resistance from my mom. Over the years, I bonded better with my dad than with my mom. He even visited Ohio twice after I settled here. But this didn't last long and he was diagnosed with a terminal illness and we lost him last year. Mom didn't like my closeness with my dad and she got cold toward me. To add to her fury, dad named me as his heir. He married many years after his divorce with mom, but he didn't have any children with his second marriage. He used to say that he had just one daughter and that was me. It goes without saying that mom and sister didn't like me because dad loved me and I got to inherit his $400,000 trust fund. It wasn't just about this inheritance. Right through childhood, dad used to pay for my education, so I ended up studying in a better school, went to a better college than my sister, and overall led a better life because of the child support money. You see, I was 10 when they got divorced, and by that time, child support and my education money started coming in. I was 12, so my mother had little control over it. Education fees directly went to the school and college respectively. From the child support money, mom did spend a portion of it on my sister and for other household stuff. Since I was not so stupid kid, my mom kept me happy so that I didn't complain about it to anyone. So, I won't say that my mom and sister were evil to me growing up, but they definitely didn't like me and they both were pretty tight while I just existed there. Besides, I was smart. Not just academically, but clever as a child. Not someone who could be treated as a doormat or walked over. I think that was also the reason that mom could never ill-treat me. My present-day problem is that $400,000 money that dad had left for me. Ever since my mom and sister got to know about this, they are behind me to borrow money for one thing or the other. Actually, if you see, this is not the first time that they have reached out to me financially. Ever since I started working, I've helped them. As my income grew, so did their needs. I don't owe them anything, but the only reason I help them is because they are family and they don't make as much money. Mom works as a cashier in a supermarket and sister is into sales in a boutique. They collectively don't earn half of what I earn, so I feel obliged to help them. We might not be so emotionally attached, but they have never been mean or evil to me. I hope you all get me and I'm not confusing everyone with my feelings. A couple of months ago, mom called me to say that she wanted to renovate our house. The walls, the ceilings, and the floor, all have been damaged over the years. Ever since dad moved out, the house has never been painted, and the wirings have never been repaired. The ceilings and the walls are crumbling from corners. We never had enough money to maintain the house. She said that it was becoming difficult for them to live in that house. During the thunderstorm or rains, it feels like the house would crumble down. She said she visited the bank to ask for a loan, but the interest rate is just too high to bear. I understood what she was hinting at. She wanted the money for me to renovate the house. It was an awkward conversation because I knew what she wanted, but neither she nor I spoke about it directly. After that conversation, I started ignoring her calls. She doesn't call me a lot, it is never more than a monthly call. But this time she called me at least 3 to 4 times last month. Finally, when I attended her call, she said that it was becoming unsafe to live in that house because it was falling apart in bad weather. This time she was upfront in her approach and asked me for the money. She promised to return to me in installments. I asked her how much money she was expecting. She said $100,000. I lost my mind. I said I don't have that much money to lend. She hinted at the inheritance money. I was infuriated but didn't indulge in further conversation about the trust fund money. I said that $50,000 is the maximum I can lend. She agreed. Later I realized that I was too impulsive to put my guard down and offer $50,000. I could have just ignored it, but now that I had told her, I had to lend her the money. I didn't have a very good feeling about lending such a huge amount of money. My husband suggested that I lend the money in installments and monitor the progress of the house before giving the next installments. I told my mom that I would be sending $50,000 in installments. I had my inactive account of Houston. I activated that and transferred the $10,000 into that account and gave access to that account to mom. She asked why I didn't transfer the money directly to her account. I gave some lame excuse for that. This is actually my husband's idea. Let's see how much this works. Loosed hope she returns the money, though not very hopeful, but let's see. Update 1. I cannot really put my finger on how my mom and sister tried to dupe me for the easy money. It's been 2 months since I started lending out the money to my mom for the house renovation. I have given $20,000 until now and I'm not going to give a penny after this. I knew they were nice to me only for my money, but I didn't imagine that they would lie to me this severely to get money out of my pocket. If they were upfront to me, this wouldn't have hurt that much. Of late, I got to know that my sister is getting married. Not from my family but from one of my school friends. My school friend's husband is a wedding planner and my sister has been in touch with his agency to plan her grand wedding. Yeah, that's what they call the wedding to be. I think my sister didn't know that I'm friends with them. Of course, a wedding worth $50,000 is not less than a grand one. It hurts to know about your sister's wedding from others. Forget about the invitation, I wasn't even informed about it. I thought it to be a close and intimate one with fewer people, but my friend told me that the guest list was around 100. It was heartbreaking that I couldn't even make it to that 100. Feeling sad about it was one thing, but I was more bothered about the money. From where did she get the money to organize such a lavish wedding? One of the best venues in the town, with unlimited food and drinks with top-notch decorations and flowers. I checked the bank account where I was sending the money to my mom for her so-called renovation work. The bank account was empty. I called mom to ask if the renovation work had started. She said yes, she has hired the renovation company but the work is yet to be started. Lust couldn't take her lies. Until then, I didn't know sure shot if they were actually using my money for her wedding, yet it disgusted me to think that they were spending bombs on her wedding and on the other hand taking money from me for the renovation of the house. For a moment, I wanted to fly down to Houston and check for myself what was going on, but I realized it wasn't worth it. I called up my aunt, my father's sister, who lived a few blocks away from my mother's house. I asked her if she knew about my sister's wedding. She said yes, but she wasn't invited either. Mom is not fond of my father's side of the family, so this is understandable. And said that my sister's wedding had become the talk of the neighborhood. I mean, until a few years ago, their house was crumbling into dust without maintenance. They both were working their ass off to put food on their table and now they have a sparkling new house and now a grand wedding. I felt dizzy and disoriented hearing this. Mom said that the house was yet to be repaired but Aunt said that it was sparkling with new paints. Then I realized that around 6 months back, Mom asked me for $20,000 for her knee transplant. I called up my mom, asking her the details of where she did the knee transplant. I lied that one of my friends needs the orthopedics details for her father's knee surgery. She fumbled for words and said she doesn't remember the name. I asked her for the hospital or clinic details but she struggled to say anything. She was caught off guard. She just pretended to have a network issue and hung up. When I called her again, her phone was switched off for a while and then it went unanswered. I dropped her a text as well but that remained unread for many days. I understood she was lying. The money I gave her for the transplant was used up for the house renovation and the money she is taking for renovation is actually going for my sister's fairy tale wedding. And also told me that my sister's engagement was organized on the front lawn of my house and they decorated the house with lilies with wine overflowing. I felt like I was living in a cave because I had no clue that they were living such a lavish lifestyle and pretending to be poor in front of me to suck out money from my pocket. So next what I did was, ghost them. I stopped putting out the money in that account. When my mom called me, I didn't respond. I didn't respond to her text. My sister, who never called me in all these years, called me but I didn't respond to her as well. I'm done with them and now I'm not going to entertain any of their lies and manipulation. It doesn't matter that I earn more than them or that my father left me an inheritance and didn't give them anything. It doesn't mean they can leech on me and use me with their false tactics. I have pledged to ruin the big day of my mom's princess. Update 2. I was so right about my mom. When I didn't respond to any of their outreach, Mom called my husband. I tell you, my husband is one lot of spoilsport. I gave him the heads up not to entertain any of their calls and texts, but still, when my mom called him, he responded to it. She started crying and said that I had ghosted them. They needed the money for the renovation work and the work was midway and I had traced back on my promise. My husband blurted out the truth. Yes. He did that. I felt like smacking down his head. He told her that I knew the truth, that she had been using me for the money all this while and that the money was actually going to my sister's wedding and that's why I had cut them off. I got so annoyed with this because I wanted to make them suffer for putting up with this fraud, but my husband ruined everything. He also told her that we knew she had lied about the knee transplant and used up that money for house repair. After that call, my mom bombarded my phone with apologies. She said that it was a misunderstanding. She had loaned the amount from someone for the house repair and now she was repaying it to him from my money. It was another BS. After her constant calls and messages, I told her I was ready to talk to her only if she promised to tell me the truth. She said okay. I called her and she told me the whole truth. She said that my sister wanted a grand wedding but they didn't have money to pull it off, so they decided to ask me for the money. It was my sister's idea to take the money from me using the reason for the house renovation. They knew I haven't visited Houston in many years, and also I was not in touch with anyone around, so there was no way I would have known that the house is already renovated. I asked her why didn't tell the truth and asked me for money directly for the wedding. She said my sister didn't want that. She said she didn't want to take a favor from me directly. Wow. Do you see that? I said that I know she repaired the house from the knee transplant money I gave. She got silent. I said I knew all the truth, so there was no point hiding. She said that the house was crumbling and my sister's in-laws wanted to visit them, so they had to get it repaired quickly, and in the moment of hurry, they couldn't come up with any better emergency reason to get the money from me. So she panic called me saying that the doctor had asked her for an urgent knee transplant, and I transferred the money within hours. Though I stood strong on call, I was crying from within, how my own mother was duping me for her own good. I understand they have money problems, but it doesn't give them the right to manipulate me and extort money from me using emotions. After I heard all the truth, I hung up the call and cried for hours. I don't remember the last time I cried so hard. Maybe during my father's demise. I missed him so badly that day. I felt he was the only one who genuinely loved me and cared for me. After 2 days, I got a voicemail from Mom saying, "Now that you know, can you please send the remaining amount so that we can continue with the wedding preps?" It disgusted me so much that I wanted to abuse her if she was not my mother. How could she be so narcissistic? There was no remorse in her tone. All she wanted was money. They didn't ask me to come for the wedding, not even for the formality's sake. Now when the truth came out, I felt so frustrated that I blocked both of them. I have also threatened my husband not to entertain their calls, and if this time he disobeys me, he would sleep outside on the porch in the cold night. I'm damn serious about this. I'm in constant touch with my aunt, and she told me that the wedding is next month. I didn't tell her the details about the money, but I know for sure that with each passing day, my mom and sister are having a hard time putting together the wedding they had desired. Good for them. Update 3. I continued to get calls and voicemails from mom and sister until the day of the wedding asking me for the money, but I stood firm on my ground and didn't budge. On the wedding day, the last voicemail my mom sent was that she was ashamed of me and was disowning me, and that I should never call her mom or visit her ever. I was just so disheartened to hear that. I cried my heart out in front of my husband. I know people might call me evil and strong-headed for ruining my sister's wedding. My mom also accused me of that, calling me arrogant and self-centered, but she never thought about her lies. She deceived me all this while I helped them because I felt obliged to. I considered them to be my family, but for them, I was nothing but a money-making machine. On the day of the wedding, I also got a call from my friend, whose husband was my sister's wedding planner. She told me that the wedding was most likely to get cancelled because they were not paying the further installments of the wedding expenses. I asked her how much they have paid. She said $20,000. I said $20,000 is enough to put up a decent wedding. She said yes, but my sister had placed the order for top-notch decorations and food. The location, which was finalized, itself cost around $20,000. She asked me if I was attending. I said no, I had some other work so couldn't attend. My friend knew that I was not so close to my mom and sister. To be honest, I was sulking from within because I was responsible for ruining my sister's wedding. For a moment, I thought to transfer the remaining amount to my friend and ask her to continue the wedding as per the plan. Then I remembered my mother's last voicemail that she had disowned me. What's the point of doing so much for them when ultimately you get disowned? My actions might be bad, but it was a reaction to their malicious trigger. I switched off my phone and went with my kids for a day out to stay distracted. The next day, my friend again called me. She was angry at my sister because the wedding brought down her husband's reputation in the market. On the day of the wedding, mom and sister pleaded with her husband to arrange for something bare minimum for the wedding and promised to pay $10,000 more. He somehow arranged for decent food and decoration because the advance money of $20,000 was almost covered for the venue itself. However, the guest and the groom's family criticized the wedding arrangements very badly, and my sister blamed everything on the wedding planner. She told everyone that the planner has messed up everything. My friend said her husband was so infuriated that he wanted to tell everyone the truth, but my mom pleaded with him not to spoil my sister's life. He was a good man that he stood silent and took up the blame on himself and let the wedding happen. On top of that, they didn't even pay the promised $10,000 yet. I felt so embarrassed to hear this about my family. I just stood silent and did not say anything. My friend said she was not blaming me for anything, but she was just sharing her frustration with me as a friend. I felt bad that my family had to undergo such embarrassment, but I was also embarrassed with the way they had put all the blame on the wedding planner. After knowing all these, my husband said they got what they deserved and I shouldn't be worrying too much about them. They brought this upon themselves because they tried to impress everyone by false means. I'm glad that I stay away from them and their tricks. Now, I feel that my mother's disownment was a blessing in disguise, that I no longer have to deal with their lies and false tactics. Now on to the next story. Story 2. My husband finally admitted he's in love with my sister after years of suspicion. My husband confessed to me yesterday that he is in love with my sister in a drunken state. I don't know if I should take it seriously or it's just a drunk thing. Yesterday we had dinner with my sister and her husband, and we all had a lot to drink. After my sister and her husband left my husband and I had sex. Neither of us were tired, so we continued drinking a bit of wine, listening to music in the background, and everything was amazing, I thought. My husband was smiling and in a good mood. He is always like that when he is drunk. We talked about my sister and her husband. He just suddenly said, "I'm so in love with sister's name." I said, "What?" He said, "I'm so desperately in love with sister's name, what I would do to taste her lips. She is brilliant." He looked dreamy and was still smiling. I said, "How drunk are you?" He said, "Probably plenty." I was drunk too, but still it hit me like a ton of bricks. I just sat silent there, and he too was in his own world with a smile etched on his face. He looked like he was a million miles away. I went to bed. This morning all memories came rushing, and now I'm not drunk. It hit me even more what he said. I'm horrified and my heart is in pieces. He hasn't mentioned anything and is acting normal if yet hangover. I don't know what to do now. He has always had a good relationship with my sister with mutual respect. Should I ignore his drunken comments? Was that just him being drunk? Should I wait for him to start talking? Not sure he even remembers? What about the sex we had? Something was different, even though I loved it and I thought it was one of the best sex of my life. He was different, passionate, tender and loving, and he kept saying, "I love you, you are brilliant." My sister has always been modest and tomboyish, but she has lost 25 kilograms and have been working out for a year. She had a form-fitting red dress yesterday with red lips. She looked stunning and we all gave her compliments about it. She was very happy about it. I don't know why I included this. I thought maybe it's relevant. Definitely bring it up once he's not hungover anymore and can think clearly. I am torn over whether I believe the old saying, drunk minds speak sober thoughts, because I do think alcohol inhibits a lot of clear thinking and decision making. However, I also don't know how much I believe alcohol alone can make someone's husband confess to being in love with their sister. Do you think you'll be able to get over this, regardless of how much he denies those feelings being true? Because I think he will deny it. If I were me, I'd never feel comfortable with my husband and my sister being in the same room again, which isn't sustainable for a marriage. I think he was probably expressing his lust for Op's sister in the moment, to be completely honest here. I know that for many people, whenever their inhibitions are lowered and they're in an inebriated state, that those two emotions kind get blended into one. For many people, they will have a tendency to express their lust for someone/something as love for that reason. Nonetheless, Op needs to have a serious heart-to-heart with their significant other. No one will be able to answer for him, and even with conversation it could be extremely difficult for Op to move forward with the relationship from here. I know from experience that even if this is dismissed as lust, that Op may very well carry this experience with her like a shadow. If you both want to end up trying to make this work, I'd highly suggest couples counseling and individual therapy to help you both move forward in a healthy manner. Wish Op nothing but the best, and I hope for a brighter future ahead of you. I'm so sorry this is happening to you. My ex once told me, "I love you, insert my twin sister's name here," and I said, "That's my twin sister, not me." He was like, "Oh yeah, I'm sorry, I got the names mixed up." He didn't. He was in love with my sister. He was dating me to get to my sister. This is definitely something you need to bluntly discuss with him. Wasn't dating you the stupidest move if he wanted your sister? No sister would accept her sister's ex. That's what I thought too, and then she dated him after we were raised in a traumatic household and didn't have the best dynamics between each other, as we were often compared and put against each other by our parents. But I do agree that 90% of the time that's the worst way to do it. Like, a much better way to do it would be to become friends with their siblings instead of boning them, but I guess he wasn't thinking clearly, lol. This is so painful to read. You absolutely have to have that discussion today. He is acting like nothing happened? Do you think that doesn't remember saying it? I agree, drunk words are sober thoughts. Have you ever seen any behavior towards her that made you pause? Ask him point blank and make sure you are facing each other. His reaction will tell you a lot. He always liked my sister. He likes my whole family and is friends with my brothers, but my sister is the one he likes the most, and we are very close with her and her husband. We do most things together, that aren't just the two of us, but my sister has always been my best friend, so it was normal if he had only said "I love her." It could well be a drunken thing if him really liking her as a person and saying it like that, at worst an innocent crush, but no more than that perhaps. But he went on to make sure he left no doubts about his feelings. What he said were not silly drunken words, it was an articulate thought with a lot of feeling underneath, and it came out because his guard was down. People said a lot of dumb shit while drunk. What people typically don't do is profess their love for a person in this way without it having some string of relevance. I would definitely bring it up abruptly and see his reaction. That should tell you everything you need to know. Update. Hi. The rules of update here is 3 days. That's why I didn't update Sunday when I talked to my husband. Also because I'm very conflicted. I talked to my husband, he said he didn't remember a lot about that night, especially after my sister and her husband left and we continued drinking. I told him what he said and he didn't look shocked nor surprised, just that he didn't remember saying anything. I asked him if he felt it, before we started drinking. He said that he always loved my sister because she is kind and warm. Then he said that he thought she looked very beautiful and probably his drunken self thought she was hot. He said it is notable that people are curious about the opposite sex. He said that he always thought she is beautiful because all my family is good looking, but her weight loss gave her confidence and she looked happy and he was happy for her. I asked him if he could choose between us and he was shocked and said that I was his wife and the mother of his children and he loved me, so I asked him if he just had met us. I wasn't his wife or anything and my sister wasn't married. He said that this was getting ridiculous and he hated playing the hypothetical games because people get worked up, fight about things that aren't really. After dinner he said that he loved me very much and he is happy and I shouldn't overthink what he said when he was too drunk to even know who or where he was. I'm just not sure. I keep thinking about you in this situation. I've read your comments. I hope you will see a therapist alone too. It would eat at me. How much influence did maintaining continued access to her, regardless how limited, play a part in his decision to stay with you? And my brain would never ever be able to reconcile knowing how he'd make love to her. And that he used your body as a surrogate for his passion for your sister. Those last two would play on a loop in my head for all times. Even contemplating getting to a place of trying to share intimacy with him, my brain would never get to a place where I could surrender to the moment and feel the connection. I'd be comparing. I'd be trapped in my head overthinking every action and reaction. I'd be disengaged and self-conscious, always finding myself lacking. I'm ADHD and my brain would never be able to believe it wasn't just a performance. I'm very close to my sister and we even live within 2 minutes from each other. Don't think I haven't thought about that. That he probably accepted the next best thing of being family/friends with her. I'm obsessing about every interaction and every time he mentions her, etc. It is never in a negative way. He is always happy when talking to or about her. Is he the same about me? I don't know. Is this true? Or am I imagining things now? I don't know. Yay, Therese, no coming back from this. It's always going to be in the back of your head. Grow a spine and listen to your gut. He does. He has confessed for me now. He has had feelings for my sister for some years now. But he said that he loves me and our life together. We are going to start counseling and from now on when I hang out with my sister, he won't be there. He said he's in love with her. He said it has went and came throughout the years. He never wanted to act on them in the past and never will.